Yo, what's good guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be speaking about the matchday 8 matches, and this time we're going to be covering all the matches as they are all happening on one day, so it's going to be a bit longer. And bear with me, I have a sore throat and stuffed up nose, so I might sound a little bit different, so bear with me. But without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now we have PSV versus Liverpool. This game should be a good one, honestly. Let's get started with PSV. They've been doing not too bad. Their form has been quite alright. In their last game they played Sverna Zvezda and they won 3-2, and they must win or draw this game if they want to stay in the playoffs as well. De Jong pulled off a brace in the last game as well. Now on to Liverpool. They have been very good this season. Form wise, they have been exceptional, winning all 7 of their matches so far. Definitely a top side in the world. Now Salah is on fire this season. He's doing amazing, but they will rest their players in this match, which is probably like inevitable because they are through to the next round of 16, so it makes sense. So my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for PSV. Moving on to Bayern versus Slovan Bratislava. This should be going one way, so let's get started with Bayern. They have been doing not too bad this season. In my opinion, they have been quite underwhelming as well. Their form has been on and off, and their last game they lost 3-0 to Feyenoord. I really did expect Bayern to win that game, but Feyenoord were just more clinical at the end of the day. Now on to Slovan Bratislava. They've been not too good this season. Their form has been actually awful. They sit 35th place, which is basically second last, and they've played 7 games and lost all of them. So one of the worst teams in the competition. Sadly, they are confirmed out and there's no way of them getting into the playoffs. They will play without any pressure now, and I think Bayern will win this game 4-0. Moving on to Dortmund versus Shakhtar Donetsk. This should be a incredible matchup. So let's get started with Dortmund. They have been decent, to be fair. They have been worse than last season. If we're being honest, last season they reached the final, but that's a bit tough to beat. And now they sit 14th place, and they lost their last game against Bologna 2-1, which is pretty crazy. And that loss resulted in Sahin being sacked by Dortmund. Now on to Shakhtar Donetsk. It has been another tough season for them. Form-wise, they have been decent, but last game they played Brest and they actually won 2-0. That was very surprising win, especially because Brest are a underrated team this season, and Sudakov is a baller for this club. I've been saying this ever since the Euros. I think a team needs to pick him up. Now my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Dortmund. Moving on to Leverkusen versus Sparta Praha. This game should be quite interesting, so let's get started with Leverkusen. They've been pretty good this season. Form-wise, have not been too bad. The last game they played Atletico Madrid and they lost 2-1. They really failed to create proper chances, and Kape got a red card, which is a big blow for the next match. Onto Sparta Praha, it has been a struggle for them this season. Their form has been quite bad, honestly. The last game they played Inter and they lost 1-0, and this is going to be such a tough game for them, especially since Leverkusen are probably one of the best teams in this competition. Now they have to get something out of this. Sparta Praha have to, if they kind of want to move up the league phase and possibly get into the playoffs. But my prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Leverkusen. Moving on to Girona versus Arsenal. This should be a pretty good game, so let's get started with Girona. It has been an awful season for them so far. They're sat 31st in the league phase table, and form-wise, it's been such a struggle. Last game they played Milan and they lost 1-0, and they must get something out of this game if they want to push up, and they could possibly get into the playoffs, but it's gonna be tough. But on to Arsenal. They're doing quite well this season, sat in 3rd place, which is solid, and they're missing Saka, and they're doing this without Saka, which is pretty impressive. Last game they played Dynamo Zagreb and they won 3-0, and Martinelli was quite good in that match, getting a goal and assist in that game. Now Arsenal are through now to the round of 16, so Arsenal will most likely rest players up now. So my prediction is going to be a 1-1 draw. Moving on to Barca versus Atalanta. This game is going to be such a good one, so let's get started with Barcelona. They've been outstanding this season, one of the best teams in Europe right now. They are currently sat in second place. They have scored 26 goals, which is the most by any team in the league phase. Last game they played Benfica. They made an insane comeback to win 5-4. I believe they were 3-1 down as well. Absolutely incredible. Now on to Atalanta. They have been doing quite good as well this season, sitting in 7th place in the league phase. Now champions of the Europa League as well. Last game they played Sturm Graz, and what can I say, they destroyed them 5-0. Lookman is such a good winger, like one of the best wingers in the world in my opinion, but my prediction for this game is going to be a 2-2 draw. Now we have a very underrated matchup in Brest versus Real Madrid. Yet another solid match. Honestly, it's going to be such a good game. So let's get started with Brest. They have been pretty decent this season, currently sitting in 13th place. Now they are considered one of the most underrated teams this season. Form wise, it has been not too bad. Last game they played Shakhtar Donetsk and they lost 2-0. Until Real Madrid, they have been actually struggling a bit, sitting in 16th place in the league phase, but this team, it just seems a bit different this season. They're still in a playoff spot at the moment, but I think they need a win to really secure that spot. Now last game they played Salzburg and they won 5-1. Mbappe and Vinny were balling out. Now my prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Real Madrid. Moving on to Man City versus Club Brugge. This game should be solid, so let's get started with Man City. They've been struggling this season, currently sitting in 25th place in the league phase, so just outside the playoffs, I believe, like one spot. And form wise, it's been a struggle for them, if we're being honest. Last game they played PSG, they went 2-0 up, but then they choked it and they lost 4-2. If we're being honest, PSG, that was great mentality from them to come back, and PSG are honestly overall a very good team now. On to Club Brugge. They have been doing not too bad, currently sat in 20th place in the playoffs spot, so form wise they have been pretty decent. And last game they have played Juventus and they drew 0-0. They're starting to pick up form recently as well, which is good. And honestly, if they somehow beat Man City, that means Man City will be knocked out of the Champions League. But my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Man City. Moving on to Young Boys versus Sverna Zvezda. It's going to be such an interesting one. So let's get started with Young Boys. They have been quite terrible this season. They're set dead last in the league phase. Played 7 matches so far and they lost all 7 of them. Super rough period for them right now, but they are already out, which is unfortunate. Onto Sverna Zvezda, they have been struggling a bit this season as well, currently sitting in 32nd place in the league phase. And last game they played Celtic, they lost 1-0 as well. It does look like they are out of the competition as well, which is quite unfortunate. I thought they were a decent team, but to be fair, they have had tough matchups, which is out of their control. So my prediction gonna be a 1-0 win for Sverna Zvezda. Now we have a pretty underrated match in Lille versus Feyenoord. Now this is going to be such a good match, so let's get started with Lille. They've been doing pretty decent this season, currently sat in 12th place in the league phase. Underrated team in my opinion. I think they are very good, and last game they played Liverpool, a top team, and they lost 2-1. Jonathan David scoring in that game as well, and it's going to be a test for Feyenoord as well. Speaking of Feyenoord, they have been doing quite well this season, currently in 11th place. They could push into the top 8 if they win this match. Another underrated team in this competition. Santiago Jimenez has been phenomenal coming back from injury. He has been on the radar of a lot of clubs all over the world, honestly. They had such a surprising win against Bayern, winning that game 3-0, and their form has been quite impressive as well, but I think this game will end in a 2-2 draw. Moving on to Juventus versus Benfica. Another banger right here. Like, what a game this is gonna be. So let's get started with Juventus. They have been quite decent this season, currently sitting in 17th place of the league phase. Form-wise, they've been quite good. Last game they played Club Brugge and they drew 0-0. Yildiz is a very exciting young player, is bound to be a star if he just stays at Juventus, or maybe he will make a move away, who knows. Now on to Benfica. They have been pretty decent this season, currently sitting in 21st place in the league phase. Now form wise, they've been not the best. Like last game they played Barcelona and they went 3-1 up, but they lost that game. They ended up choking it and they ended up losing 5-4 to Barcelona. Barcelona came back. The amount of times I've seen Barcelona come back in the past few years is crazy. Now my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Benfica. Moving on to Aston Villa versus Celtic. This could be a pretty decent match, so let's get started with Aston Villa. They have actually been quite good so far. They sit in 9th place in the league phase, which is pretty impressive. Form-wise, they've been not too bad. The last game they actually played Monaco, who are a pretty underrated team, and they lost 1-0. They struggled to put the ball in that net clearly, as they got no goals against them. Now Celtic, they've been quite alright this season as well, sitting 18th in the playoff spot. Form-wise, they've been quite good actually. The last game they played Young Boys and they won 1-0, and I did not expect them to do this, so they are doing pretty decent, and they're, I think, better than last season for sure. And my prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Aston Villa. Moving on to Dynamo Zagreb versus AC Milan. This game should be quite underrated, so let's get started with Dynamo Zagreb. They are doing not too bad this season, currently sat in 26th place in the league phase. They have got to win in this match if they want to stay in the playoffs or push into the playoffs. Now form wise, they've been not the best. Last game they played Arsenal and they lost 3-0. On to AC Milan. They have been quite good this season. They're currently sat in 6th place, which is pretty impressive. I believe the last time I checked the table, they were in like 14th. There's like minimal gaps between the table. It's crazy. One team could win and they could just bump up right away. Now, Ormais, they have been pretty good. Last game they played Girona and they won 1-0. Rafael Leao is probably one of my favorite players to watch. Just takes the ball on the wing, runs. This guy is incredible at dribbling, even though he's like 6'2". Very good winger, and I love watching him play. Now my prediction, it's going to be a 3-1 win for AC Milan. Moving on to Inter versus Monaco. What a match this is going to be. So let's get started with Inter. As always, they're doing quite good this season, and overall they always do well in the Champions League, sitting in 4th place, which is pretty solid. Form wise, they've been alright. Last game they played Sparta Praha and they won 1-0. And of course, Lautaro Martinez scores. This guy just scores almost nearly every single game for fun. And on to Monaco. They've been doing pretty decent this season. They are sat in 10th place, and as I've said before, they are a pretty underrated team. Form wise, it's been not too bad for them. They played Villa in their last game and they won that 1-0. This Monaco team is just full of young talented players, and it's great to see them doing well. But my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Inter. Moving on to Sturm Graz versus RB Leipzig. This could be quite a interesting game, so let's get started with Sturm Graz. I mean, it has been a terrible season for them, to be fair. Currently sitting in 33rd place in the league phase table now. They are basically out at this point. Their form has been not bad recently, but they got slapped 5-0 by Atalanta in their last game. On to Leipzig. It's been a rough season for them in the Champions League. They are really in 30th place right now, and I believe they are out of this competition already. Form-wise, like, they have been decent, but it's just not enough at this point in the Champions League. Last game they played Sporting and they won 2-1, but honestly I thought this Leipzig team would do a lot better with Sesko, Openda and Xavi Simons up top, but I guess not. Now my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Leipzig. Moving on to RB Salzburg versus Atletico Madrid. Now this game should go one way realistically, so let's get started with Salzburg. It has been a terrible season for them, sitting in 34th place, which means they are out as well, and form-wise it has been a struggle for them. Like last game they played Real Madrid and they got slapped 5-1, and this game they probably will play with no pressure at all, as they are basically out of the competition. Onto Atletico Madrid, they're doing pretty well this season, currently sitting in 5th place in the league phase, and their form has been quite good as well recently. They beat Leverkusen in their last game 2-1. Both teams got a red card. I believe Barrios got a red card on Atletico Madrid, and then for Leverkusen it was the goal scorer in Cape, and Alvarez was the man who got both goals to basically win the match for them and bump them up into 5th place. And this team, they just always do fairly decent in the Champions League. Now my prediction is going to be a 3-0 win for Atletico Madrid. Moving on to Sporting versus Bologna. It's going to be a very good battle between the two. I think both teams probably want to win this game, so let's get started with Sporting. They have been fairly alright this season, currently sitting in 23rd place. They were in the top 5 early on, but it dropped after Amorim left for Manchester United. Now form-wise they have been struggling. Honestly, last game they played Leipzig, as I mentioned before, they lost 2-1, but Gyökeres, we still see him scoring, but he can't really carry the team alone with his goal scoring. The defense needs to improve as well. Now on to Bologna. They've been not the best. They're currently sitting in 28th place in the league phase. Form-wise, they have been doing not too bad. Last game they played Dortmund and they won 2-1. That result was fully unexpected and they needed it as well. Now my prediction is going to be a 1-1 draw between the two. Now the last and final game, Stuttgart versus PSG. This game should be pretty decent, so let's get started with Stuttgart. They're doing not too bad, currently set in 24th place. They have the last playoff spot. At the moment they can't lose this game, as they need to secure a playoff spot. So if they don't lose, I think they have that playoff spot on lock. But their form has been quite good. Last game they played Slovan Bratislava and they won that game 3-1. They started the campaign not too well, but they have turned it around. Now on to PSG. They have been doing not too bad this season, currently set in 22nd place in a playoff spot, and their form has been getting better, to be fair. And last game they played Man City, and what a game. They came back from 2-0 down to win 4-2. Incredible mentality from the team, and they look like a more complete team overall, and they're just playing a lot better. So my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for PSG. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Don't forget to drop a like, comment down below all your predictions, or a few of your predictions, because we have a lot of games on this day. So thanks for tuning in. My voice is cooked, but we got through the video. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.